Hello and welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, episode number 41, a podcast where we discuss the books, industry genre, and our geeky lives. I'm your host, Elle Klaus.
I'm A.R.D. Clerk.
I'm Paulina Woods.
I'm not sure. Ishabelle is here in some capacity. And today we have a special guest, Electra Gajdos. Say hi.
Hi.
So why don't we keep things really simple and start with an introduction? Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm a mom of 2 kids and been married for 15 years. Seems like longer some days. And sometimes I wonder if we'll make it to the 16th, but we're doing good. And then I work full time and do my best to write as often and as much as I possibly can, as pretty much as my hobby right now. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Okay. What genre do you write?
Currently right now it's a science, considered science fiction or kind of like fantasy. I had a really hard time deciding as to what genre my stories best fit in. And so, I have somewhere around in that area. So, but yeah.
Okay. Well, your first book is called Ambushing Malachi.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Yeah. So, Ambushing Malachi is kind of more of a world where they're called Wolvens, and they're half human and half wolves, and it's it was a genetic experiment through a vaccine that had caused this mutation of the two to the wolf and the human form to merge. The problem that they have is that only because of a wolf's dominant traits, males only seem to be Wolvens and females are not, but they have they carry the recessive trait. So that's just a little bit of the background of the Wolven world. But really the book is about Malachi. He is this weapons genius expert who doesn't really have a care about anything but his toys. I mean, literally his science projects and everything. And he forgets to pick up his sister, and she's in a clinic for mental depression, and he forgets to just pick her up because he's so focused on his projects, really. And on his way to when he finally gets to the resort to pick her up, she kind of plays this little trick on him, and she disappears. And so now he's flipping out because he can't find his sister. And in the process, he ends up running into his fated mate and meeting Jazz, his fated mate. And she's at the resort because of she made a deal per se with the devil in some ways. So she's being used as the pawn to gather some top secret information on another territory, or another country. In this case, they call them territories, in another country. And so they meet, and then he decides he's going to help her, and it just kind of snowballs, and then into trying to defeat the bad guys, and still just kind of come together as a relationship. So that's pretty much what it's about.
And you said it has fated mates. Is that a trope that you enjoy reading a lot about?
No. Yes. No. I have a love-hate relationship with fated tropes, and it's one of the things that, while I did put it in my book, it was because sometimes with your first book, you kind of do things because of the genre standards or expectations, or based upon editors' expectations or editors' suggestions, and that was one of them. I don't mind the fated mate part where it's a permanent relationship. I'm just, you know, for me, that's I understand that, like, not all relationships do end up being lasting forever, but that's just me. I kind of love that the couple is no matter what's going to happen, they're always going to be together. So that's what I like about the fated mate. But what I don't like about it is the instant love attraction. Love, I mean, I don't necessarily mind the love at first sight, but sometimes there's no tension between the couple, and it's just like, you know, well, now we're fated mates, let's, you know, like I said, there's just no of that romance tension or discovery of love for the two. So that's, like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with the whole fated trope. So, but it's definitely, you know, I think it's here to stay.
Oh yeah, it's vastly popular, but I understand what you mean. That a lot of authors use it as a, like, I don't know, free pass. It's like they don't have to explain why the couple fell in love. They just, well, they're fated, so they're in love. I'm like, no, you still need to have the romance. They still need to go through the process of, as you said, discovering each other and the falling in love part. So this is your first book, and you alluded to releasing something later this year. What is your next project?
Well, my next project is not the second book in the series. So after I released Ambushing Malachi, at the end, there's a scene where in my universe, they're called the Alliance, and it's a group of planets, and they join together to try to form one government per se, and so I had kind of put a little hint of that and at the end of Ambushing Malachi, and the responses I got back was, we want to know more about the Alliance, the planets, and how it all ties together. So I started thinking about that and decided that maybe I should put the Alliance series out there first to kind of help bring everything that happened in Ambushing Malachi to, you know, bring it all together and tie it together and kind of go that route. So the second book is actually about, that I'm going to be publishing, is about Hayden and Danator. So, and they're part of the Alliance series.
So it's more of a prequel series.
Right.
Okay. And you said you hope to have that out later this year?
That is my goal, if everything keeps going well and I don't have any other emergency things that come up that takes my time. So that's my goal. Okay.
Very cool. And Amy just disappeared as I was about to pass it over to her.
Oh, she's back.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to see me yelling at my children.
Oh. Well, take it away, Amy.
Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and call this book science fiction romance. And say, what drew you to science fiction romance? And what's your favorite part about the genre? Have you read science fiction romance before? Are you a fan of it? Or did your book just happen to turn into science fiction romance?
No, I'm actually a big fan of the science fiction romance and paranormal. I kind of bounce back and forth. But I'm a huge fan of science fiction. A lot of my favorite authors, you know, are like S.E. Smith and M.K. Edom and Michelle Howard. And those are all, you know, science fiction authors. And I've always kind of loved science fiction, but to be honest with you, I didn't really think that my book was science fiction. I thought it was more towards like a alternative like universe type thing. But unfortunately, there's not really a big audience or, you know, say a genre in that area. So science fiction just seemed to be the best fit to go with. But yeah, I mean, I am definitely in love of science fiction. I would say that's probably my primary go-to when I want to read something.
So Elle and I both dabble in science fiction from time to time, but there seems to be two camps of science fiction romance authors. So you have the ones who believe that the science is, you know, God. And so you must stick to, you know, it takes 911 parsecs to travel from this sector to this sector, and, you know, divide by the speed of light times 10 to the second power, you know, and they have to make sure they're down to the second correct with the science. There are others who are a little bit more loose, and they let the readers make their own choices, and they just give us a loosely based scientific world. So where do you fall in that category?
A little bit of both. I don't focus so much on the tedious part of the, you know, the science fiction, but I do like to add a lot of techie words, and I like a lot of techie things about science fiction. I mean, it's one of the things that I think with Ambushing Malachi, with Malachi, he's such a tech, he's such a geek. So I did use a lot of techie terms and a lot of science fiction terms as far as that, because that was part of his character. But far as the overall plot and everything else like that, I didn't get into, to me, I'm not that type of writer, nor do I like to read that kind of stuff necessarily either. So I'd say probably somewhere in the middle.
I think I kind of fall in the middle too.
Yep, story trumps tech.
Yeah. I'll do the research, or I'll take something that might be theory now and make it fact for the future, you know, and say, oh yeah, this is true, or no, that wasn't true, or, you know, right. But if it comes down to this either works or doesn't work for my story, then I'll just use what, you know, I'll bend science to fit my needs. And that's usually, you know, I don't get too caught up in, if I'm reading a science fiction romance, get too caught up in the science either. So when you sit down to write a story, what comes first, your world or your characters?
I actually just learned this about myself, just actually in the last couple of months. So I've been working with a writing coach, and actually you guys had her on, I think, just a few months ago, Chris Allen Riley, and I've been working with her for a year, and she had me do a lot of character development. To be honest with you, it was like 2 pages. I mean, literally 2 pages. I mean, it was just 2 pages, and of questions, character questions. And I started to fill them out, and it took me thousands of hours staring at a computer with nothing accomplished. Because I really felt like I was forcing certain things, like what's their belief system? And I was like, oh, let me just put this out here. And it wasn't working well for me. So she kind of just like, okay, we're going to move on. So we were moved on to the world building. And once I got into the world building and into the scenes and settings of my book, that's when the characters came alive. So for me, I really think it's the world building, the settings and the scenes, because I need to see how that character is going to react. If I know my characters, you know, if I know 2 or 3 traits about my character, you know, if they're passive aggressive, how are they going to react in this setting? And then once I know that, then I kind of know who they are. So for me, I think it's definitely the world building and the setting, and then the characters just kind of show me who they are in that environment.
Okay, so we're talking about fated mates, and I think all of us at least have, you know, used the fated mate trope at least 1 time or 2 times in a story. I don't think it's, anything that's going to go away, like Elle said, anytime soon. Is there another trope that you, or a theme that you find that, ends up in most of your stories, or things that you like to see when you're reading specifically?
Not really. I mean, I'm pretty much, I'm open when it comes to reading. I'm pretty much open to whatever the author wants to put out there, as long as it works, and as long as I don't feel gypped throughout the process, or feel like I would say I have more pet peeves than, as far as story building, than I do about tropes. I mean, I can look past a trope, but my biggest pet peeve is what I call writers who are I call them recycle writers or recycled authors. They'll use a movie, or they'll use the same details that they used in the first 5 of their books, and now I'm reading it again for the next 3 books, just because it's easy and it's convenient. Those are the type of things that I get more frustrated with than like a faded trope, or any type of a shifter trope, like vampires, or obviously with them it's always going to be blood or something. But with so tropes don't really bother me so much, other than like I said, I think I have more pet peeves towards plot and story, as I think is mine for me when I'm reading.
Okay, and so those are all my questions. Thank you for answering them. And Paulina is next.
Yay. Fine, I'm just kidding. So let me see. I wrote down a lot of questions. Yay.
Oh.
But I'm not gonna ask all of them. So you were talking about how you can't put your, it was kind of hard to find out where you're gonna put your book at. Mm-hmm. Is it future, past, or is it just all alternate, like a parallel universe almost?
It's definitely alternate, but it's I don't want to say a parallel universe. I would say it's definitely its own world, and in its own environment and so forth. But yeah, it was, I would say, more alternative.
Alternative. So like if someone's reading it, they're not going to say, "Oh, this is Earth." Few years
exactly. No, because the planet has its the Wolvens have the name of their own planet, and it's not Earth or anything along those lines.
And how do you have a backstory how they got there, or is it like Earth, we kind of, hello, we're here?
Yeah, nope, I didn't do a backstory of how the world came about, but it was just more like, oh, this is the world I want to create, and I just kind of created it and just put how did they evolve as a species, and so forth.
Okay, so let's do world building, because in fact I do alternate universe, so I have to build the world. I have to build a map for it soon. How did that go about? Like, because you can't just say an empty space, so you have to build the reader's mind to that environment.
Right.
So how did that go? How did that happen for you?
For me, okay, so I like to take myths, logical, myths, and almost like play on religion a little bit. So in some of my worlds that I have, one of them is they're what I call a tri-being, and I kind of got the idea, and I'm sure, hopefully I won't upset anybody, but I kind of got the idea from the Trinity in Christian mythology. So I kind of like to kind of take those things. I like to take religion and all sorts of Greek mythology and Egypt mythology, and I like to turn those into science fiction. And I like to take those worlds and make them into their own, and just kind of turn it into a planet. and kind of just play on that. That's kind of like what I like to do. So that's how I come up with my world building, is I kind of take a, like I said, a mythological story, and I kind of just turn it into this planet, and I kind of just build off of that.
Are you hoping to build trade in? Because I know, again, science fiction fantasy readers, they kind of need that. So they have to know, if you say you bought something, you can't just say you bought it. Are you using stones? Are you using jewels? Are you using money? Are you using, like, do you have that yet? Yeah,
so this is part of where I don't get too technical. Like I just say the words like credits and, so there's definitely a currency, but I don't get too technical into that part of the world building. For me, I try to focus more on, I would say, well, in the Alliance series that I'm currently doing, they're based upon science. So they, in their world, their stars, their rock stars, aren't like musicians or like artists or actors or actresses. They're actually scientists. And so they view, every time you come up with, like a new technology or an antidote or a cure for a disease, they actually increase in popularity amongst the Alliance. And so, nice? Yes. So I don't necessarily do currency, and then they get, but because these planets are all, quote, thankful that they came up with something to better their lives, they actually put them on like this pedestal, and then they'll give them jewels, or they'll give them, credits or whatever it is. But it's recognitions. They'll get parades and they'll get parties, but I don't necessarily get down to it and like, say, oh, well, they get paid 5,000 million credits for doing this or something like that. But definitely, I definitely make a note, like, they're going to get, rewarded in some way.
Okay, I know you said you don't like when people recycle their stories.
Yes.
Or their things.
Yes.
Or their, have you ever, I know that Betty Neal, she's long gone, so I can say this. She wrote a series of almost 60 books, and each one was a nurse and a doctor, secretary and a boss, a nurse and a doctor, anyways, let's get the point. Librarian and nurse, anyway. So, I know that sometimes it's harder to not, like if you do well on a book or you see a book doing well, it's kind of hard not to recycle that that hero. And how do you work around that? Because they become voices in our head, unfortunately. So when you start a new book, sometimes that voice stays a little bit longer than it should.
Yes, and I can understand that, but when so much. The characters aren't, as far as recycling, for me, it wasn't so much the characters, because I think in the romance, almost every hero has this dominant personality. So almost all the books that I have read, and almost all the heroines either have a dominant alpha female, or they're more of the come rescue me damsel in distress type thing. It's just like, it's like the two, but the hero is always dominant. Where I get frustrated with the recycling, as I call it, recycled authors, is in the plot and in the story. And so there was an author that I really liked the first 3 books, thought they were great. It was science fiction, and it was one of those ones where the aliens had really old information in regards to Earth. I mean, they were like 50 years behind where their information on what Earth was. So now it's, the 20th century, and they're trying to act like medieval times. So it was kind of funny, it was funny. It was great because, the females were like, you absolutely look stupid. So, but it was in a funny way and kind of like a cutesy type thing. But then the author had a part where she had to come up with a solution for to overcome the plot. And the solution wasn't a bad solution. It was great. But then the next set of the 3 books that came out, it was the same solution to her problem in the next 3 books. So, but apparently, in the first 3 books, it came to, it was a conclusion, and then the next 3 books, so a total of 6 books so far that has been published. So 4th, 5th, and 6th books, she used the same solution to solve the problem for books 4, 5, and 6.
Ooh. Okay, I see your point. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, really? So, and that as a reader, I'm like, oh, I'm not buying you no more, because I'm like, I'm turned off. I just want, you're constantly looking for something new. You want something to be refreshed. And to be honest with you, I don't want to read something I just wrote, especially when you're publishing a book every month, that I just wrote 3 months ago because I just paid you for that book. And now 3 months later, I'm paying you for the same book, just with a different guy's name and a different girl's name.
Yeah, it's called Mad Libs writing. So basically you have a formula story and you just change the characters' names and you insert a new pronoun here and you insert a new noun here and a new verb here, but everything else is formula, right down to, they went here, they did this, and this, then they turned around and did this, then they had sex, then they did this, then they had some more sex, and then it was over. Like, it's very formula.
Stop, you guys. Elle and Ish, you guys turn at the same time or look at each other. Sorry.
We are having a moment.
They just didn't want us to know.
Apparently, like, they both turned and look at each other just a minute ago. I'm like,
they're having a podcast affair.
Sorry. I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, stop it. Okay, really fast, I can finish off. So I have questions. It's kind of away from book writing a little bit. So what are you doing downtime? I know you're kids and married, but there has to be downtime somewhere.
There is. Okay, so I have an addiction to makeup. Okay, so my downtime is I like to make my own colors with makeup. So my downtime is makeup. I have like literally stacks of cases of makeup that I love, and so I'll just scrape the colors out of their little tins and make new colors.
Wow, and I can't even really put on eyeshadow because I'm like, you're lucky to see me in makeup. My boyfriend's like, oh, who are you dressing up for? I'm like, shut up. You won't see this on again for another 2 months. What's your dream vacation?
Australia, and I have it almost saved up to take me, my kids, and my husband. I have been saving for 15 years. My husband promised me, he doesn't like to fly, and he promised me for our 5th year anniversary to take me to Australia. Well, 5 years came, and I was pregnant at the time, so we couldn't go, because, like, I'm gonna fly 8 months being pregnant, and so ever since then, it's been, we can't because we have little kids, or we can't. Well, now my kids are older, and he doesn't even know that I had saved up almost the majority of the money. I literally only have like very small. He doesn't even know about it. I've just been like saving and tucking away. And I'm going to just bring it on him that I bought these tickets and he can't get out, and we're all going, and he's just going to have to deal with it. That's
actually smart and cool. Like, where do you get the money from? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's exactly. He'll be like, it costs too much. Oh no, we got it covered now at this point. So
that's like, now I'm like, that's a good idea to be able to do. But all right, my questions are over. Elle.
Okay, so we've gotten the habit of doing a giveaway, and you've agreed to give away Ambushing Malachi.
Yeah.
So if you want to read this hot SFR, all you have to do is you have to ask Electra a question in comments on our blog. Our blog is focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. ask her a question. We'll leave it open for 30 days. So about September 25th, we will close it. And so, yeah, leave a comment for a chance to win. Void where prohibited, blah, blah, blah. So where can we find you online?
I do have a website. It's electragajdos.com. And I'm on Facebook. You can reach out to me at Electra Gajdos on Facebook. And yeah, I mean, those are really the two places. I have a Twitter account, but I'll be absolutely honest with you. As a writer, I don't think I struggle with trying to keep within that 140 characters. I mean, come on. I mean, and then it's going to sound like unreadable. And then I'm just going to get in trouble by some fan who's like, and you're a writer and you can't write. And I'm just like, oh, forget it, you know? So
that's why you do that at the front of it. You do 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of. I've seen a lot of people doing these long chains. If you have a rant, just go for it.
Oh my gosh. When I'm on a rant, I'm not thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just like, hello.
Okay, well, and you have a newsletter, so you can also go to your website and
yes,
sign up for your newsletter.
Yes. Now I don't always, I'm not a monthly newsletter person. I'm like one of those, hi, I'll pop up every now and then. Here I am. Newsletters are hard. I got to be honest with you. I mean, do people really want to hear about me eating breakfast and, you know, all this other crap? I mean, what they really want to know is when my new book's coming out. So, I really have a hard time struggling with newsletters. If anybody has some ideas, I am definitely open to that, because you're lucky if you hear from me once a year in a newsletter. But yeah, definitely sign up, because then you'll know if I have published a book or not.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. If you like the podcast, please comment, like, and share. This has been episode number 41. Good night.